Martial arts world champion Farid Dordar went from running a successful martial arts school to becoming the founder and CEO of a $100 million software company called PerfectMind. In today's session, he'll teach you how to apply leadership strategies that you can use to build a stronger, more effective team. PerfectMind is also a gold sponsor for the show, so please make sure to stop by their booth and thank them for their sponsorship and support. So please put your hands together for our gold sponsor and CEO, PerfectMind, Mr. Farid Dordar.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning. I'm honored that you went to a party last night, but you still showed up 9 a.m. here. That's amazing. Thank you. Today's meeting is about leadership, and I've done this seminar for a lot of cities across U.S. And being a martial artist myself, I thought to change it around a little bit and see how that would fit within a martial arts school. So my first question for all of you, how many of you are coaches, instructors? Hands up. That's amazing. You have already made the first step to be the leader. Because I believe one of the common things for all leaders is actually being a coach. And you got it. A lot of CEOs of the world or executives in corporations, they don't have that ability. They have to go actually learn how to coach. And coaching is not easy. You got to see the best in people. You got to bring the best in people. You got to be able to encourage people. And you got to be able to inspire them. But you're the leaders in your community, and that's what you're doing. So if you would define the word leadership in one word, what would that be? Help me out here.
Courage.
Okay? Influence. Role model. Okay? What's that?
Pathway, showing a pathway.
Amazing.
Vision.
Vision. All right. Anybody thought about the word result? Shouldn't great leaders bring great result? Isn't that important? I was talking to this finance guy, and he was training in martial arts for 15 years with Chris Rappel. And he called me, and we're trying to get some financing for a company, some investors. And he talked for an hour about business, finance. And then he started telling me about his stories of his personal life as a child, how he joined Chris's school, and how he became a black belt, and how he admires him, and how he follows him. And that is like unbelievable. You see this successful person in the financial world. The biggest story of his life is when he joined a martial arts school. Isn't that amazing? How he became who he is today because of his instructor. That's amazing. And he told me, Farid, can I come meet you in Vegas? Because I want to also see Master Rappold at the show. So I get a chance to see him and also meet with you. So he showed up. And that's amazing. These are the future of our country. These are kids who believe in the instructor so much that they live with that story for the rest of their lives. That I call leadership. You create an impact in your community that no one else can. You have that opportunity. But there are also some techniques to become good at it. Do you agree? Do you agree that if you train push-ups and you do exercise and then you go to the ring and you can still get killed? No matter how much in shape you are, how much cardio you've done, you can still get killed, right? Because technique matters. So there are some techniques I want to share with you today as well that matters for you to implement within your school or within everything you do, whether it's a corporations or is a small school or a multi-location school. So we're going to go over some of those. These are some of the few words that I put together defining leadership. Some of you mentioned some of them. You said vision. It's a good one. Alignment. Anybody knows what that means? Because you can have a great vision, but if your staff, your instructors, the assistant instructors in the class, they're not aligned with that vision, it wouldn't help, would it? So alignment is the key, and we can talk about that a little bit. Success comes from what? Look at the third words. Success comes from what? Executions. At the end of the day, you can have the biggest plan in the world. If you don't know how to execute, it won't work. And we've seen that many times over and over. I see that in my own corporations, right? Where we come up with a great plan, and then we fail on the execution side. So that's the key. Risk. I don't think I should talk about risk. Here's the United States. We all take risks, right? In America, I think we take risks. I think in Canada, it's not as much. But in the US, we take risks, right? And we're willing to invest and make a change and have the ability to take risks. I remember when I had my school, it was about 1,600 square foot. And I said, I had 120 students. At the time, I had 30 professional fights. And I thought my school was going to get packed by students. It didn't happen. The maximum student I could get was 120. And then I would go to 130, and then we'll go down again. I didn't know how to overcome that number of students. So I went and I said, the first thing I got to do is make a martial arts school looks really good. I'm not saying the story because I want you to do the same thing, because you might not want to do that. But I went around and looked at all these warehouses, and I found this beautiful place facing the water in the downtown of Vancouver. Beautiful place. I said, I cannot believe this place, it's a warehouse. It was 20,000 square foot. And I went to the guy who owned it. He was a 90-year-old guy. And I said, I want to rent this place. He said, yes, I'll rent it to you, but you know what? The city is not going to allow to have martial arts here. And I said, well, I'll take the risk. He said, are you sure? Because I'm not going to spend a penny for you to do that. You got to put your own money. I said, okay, I'll do that. I'll take the risk. It was like $5-6 grand to spend. Go to the city hall and get the council and get the approval. And he said, I won't even pay you a penny to renovate this place. You got to do it with your own money. And the cost at the time was like 80 grand. It's a lot of money. 30 years ago, right? And I looked at that place. I said, this school's going to look amazing. 10,000 square foot place with multiple floors, with change rooms and showers, and this has got to be a martial arts school. And I turned that school into a beautiful school. It's still there. It's called Champions. It's got over 600 students. It's one of the largest schools in Canada. And now I own the building, which is amazing. Because at the time, the old guy, I said, I'll lease this place, but if you want to sell it one day, I got to be on that contract that you will sell it to me. And he said, okay. It turned out to be a good deal for me and for the school. So now we're in a downtown area where usually you see expensive multi-million-dollar restaurants to be there, but it's a martial arts school there. And it's amazing. So taking risks sometimes is important, right? And the risk doesn't need to be opening a big school. But taking risk is what leaders do. It's important. Discipline, you got it all. You wouldn't be training martial arts for so many years. Who said courage here? Good job. And the last one is my favorite one. What is it? I can't hear you. Results. Did you say results? Yes, sir. That's important. Very important. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have the vision and you don't know what result you're going to end up with, it's not worth it. All the work you put into it is not worth it. Okay. So, 4 things that is common in all leaders. The last one you already have. That's coaching, right? Being able to coach. The first one, some of you said, being able to follow the path. Who said that? Hands up. Okay. So inspiring others to follow the path. There's a big difference between, I would say, encouraging people than inspiring people. I can encourage you, and that lasts maybe 3 months, maximum 6 months. But if I inspire you to follow the path, that might take 10 years. Right? How many of you have students that have been with you for over 2 years? Hands up. Wow. How many of you have students that have with you for 5 years? Okay, 10 years. Wow. You got students been with you for 10 years? That's unbelievable. How about 15? 20? How many of you had students who were students, they left, they came back to continue? That's amazing. That's why I was always against giving a black belt quickly. Right? Because what does that do? Giving a black belt in 2 years, 3 years. How does that help anyone? Are you going to develop skill set in 2 or 3 years? Not really. You can't develop skill set in 2 or 3 years unless you're very good. It's very hard. What is it going to do to the business? Is it good for business if you give someone quicker belt? Is it good for business? No, because people think when they get the black belt, they're done. And why is that good? It's not good for students. It's not good for the business. Right? Especially if they're kids. I don't like to see 8, 9 years old walking around with a black belt. Just don't like that. I don't think it's right for business, and I don't think it's right for that child. Because you want to help the kids in the most troubled years of their lives. That is when they're teens. Right? This is when you want them to be in your martial arts schools. So setting goals for them is important. How you do that is important. We do have also 12 belts in our school, but we still have ranks and the stripes between to keep encouraging them without necessarily being able to give them a black belt in 2 years. Right? Helping others to become the best is not just for your students. Pick up your hands if you have helped another instructors or staff to become their best at their job. That is teaching, motivating, encouraging the students. Hands up. All right. Not many hands went up. I don't like that. Because helping the students is one side of the story. Helping the staff, the instructors, is going to help you to expand your school, to be able to help more students. And I didn't know that when I had 120 students. I didn't know why my students does not get to 140. I didn't know why I cannot get it to 150 and then 200. I didn't know one of the problem was the fact that I couldn't duplicate myself. Is that a challenge with you? Yes. Duplicating yourself. And I'm glad you're in this class today. Because that's what this class is about. It's about how to do that. I had the same challenge when I started my software company. I still have that challenge. I have 180 employees, but I still want to duplicate not only myself, but I want to duplicate my directors, my VPs, my key employees. I don't want to have one great developer, I want to have 5 great developers. I don't want to have one great VP, I want to have 6 of them. So it's important to be able to help other people to become their best. As a leader, that has to be your intention. Are you afraid to do that because they will leave? How many of you had instructors that they left to take the students with them? That happens a lot. Right? In a martial arts schools, the product is the instructor. Right? But the fear of losing people, that is stopping you from making and helping them to become their best, is the biggest loss you can ever have. Help them to become their best. You know how, and that's okay if they leave. Because if you don't, they won't be able to help you either. Do not hold people back, ever. Help everyone to become their best, including your staff. And how do you make staff to become their best, or the instructors? Anybody has any idea? How do you do that? What's that?
Set them up for success.
Okay, how do you do that with instructors? What does success look like for an instructor?
Small attainable goals, and then you back off and get to bigger goals, give them more and more.
Amazing. How do you measure a success of an instructor?
The bosses are calling you about what they did.
You measure like this. You give me 10 students, right? And then look to see how many of my students are NA, non-actives. How many of them are C students? How many of them are B students? How many are A students? This is how you measure me as an instructor. If you see my students are still coming to class, I'm a great instructor. Step 1. Because what's the point? You can be the greatest instructor in the world. I actually brought a world champion to my class. He could not teach a simple front kick and was a world champion. Right? Good for him. But it's not good for my students. So how do you measure if an instructor is a great instructor? How do you measure that? If they have students. How do you measure success of a martial arts school? Retention. How many NA students you have? How many C students you have? How many B students you have? If you're not looking at that today, that's the single most important measurement of running a martial arts school. You have to keep your eyes on that at all times. When it comes running your school, or when it comes to know whether the instructors are doing well or not. That's the single most important measurement you can do in your school. And then you can compare that with last quarter, last year, and see you're getting worse or better. You can bring in instructors and sit down and say, hey, I noticed you have a lot of C students. Meaning what? C students means what? Anybody knows? That means they've came to the school only twice a month. But yet they should have been here at least 6 times, 8 times, right? People don't quit all of a sudden. They quit slowly. Why? Do you know why? Because they're paying. They have contracts. Right? If somebody pays, they force their kids, you gotta go to class, I'm paying. If you want to quit, quit afterwards. Right? Because they're paying. But slowly they become demotivated and don't want to come anymore. And when's the best time to catch them, to motivate them again? When they become B students. That means they showed up only 4 times in a month. They're not motivated. Maybe they were on vacation too. That's okay. But that measurement becomes really key. Recognizing creativity and progress. So you got 2 instructors. One has got 2% of the students are non-active. One you got 10% of the students non-active. You've got to be able to encourage the right things in your organization as a leader. When you encourage the right thing, people get motivated to do the right thing. But if you sit back and treat everyone the same way, you would not encourage them to do the right thing. Because in the martial arts schools, we learn, when I have a student in the back of the class who can't kick and punch, he's as important as my student in front who can jump up and do 5 spinning hook kick, right? We learned that. And part of one of my weakness has been that, actually. Because I treat that student as good as the one in front, then I might forget to treat my best ones and encourage them differently. Right? You've got to do that. All right. Some of you are obviously in a martial arts school, running school. How many school owners here today? How many staff? Okay, good numbers, both sides. So, there's a big difference between leaders and managers, right? Yeah. But you might wear both hats, and that's okay. Because you might look at this and say, oh, no, I'm doing both, right? But you've got to be able to define the difference. The goal of management is what? Consistency and order. You know what that means? How many people had here schools over 10 years? Okay, 10 years ago when a student came, you sent them an email and you said, welcome to our martial arts school. I want to tell you that I'm going to help you in this journey up to a black belt. And if you have any questions anytime, my door is always open. You can come and see me. You sent that 10 years ago. Are you still sending the same email today? Imagine what these phones are doing to you. We're getting distracted all the time. We can't stick with the same thing that works over and over and over and over. That is consistency. I took my 2 girls to my own martial arts school called Champions, where my ex-wife runs the class, Ingrid, and she's amazing. And I take them there. Then I got these emails that I wrote myself 10 years ago, 20 years ago actually. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. And I told her, I said, that is why you're successful and you still have over 500-600 students. Because you can stick with what works and you're doing it over and over and over and over. You do not get distracted with these cardio kickboxing classes because you think, that's a fad, I gotta go in there now. You don't get distracted month to month, year to year. You do what works over and over and over and over. When somebody gets their belt, my daughter got her yellow belt, I still got an email. I said, wow, nothing is changing. She is doing the same thing, the same system, over and over and over. Isn't that amazing? That's amazing. It's not about the computer and the software, right? It's about the person behind it, the ownership behind it. Understanding that is a key in success. Tell me 3 things you do today that it works really well in your school. Pick up your hands. Yes?
Talk to my parents individually.
Thanks to your parents, talk to your parents individually. Were you doing that 5 years ago?
Yes.
You're still doing it?
Yes.
That's amazing. You were able to continue to do what works. I remember 5 years ago, I came to Maya and people had new ideas. Buying cappuccinos for parents, knowing their drinks. I wonder if those people who were teaching the class are still doing the same thing. Because it works. You don't need always new ideas to make it work, right? It works. That's the job of a leader? Is that a job of a leader? Consistency? Yes? Read that again. That's the job of a manager. If you're both, you got to know which hat to wear. Maybe you're not a good manager, you're just a good leader. Right? Or maybe you got to be good at both. But they're different. Right? The manager's got to keep the consistent work happening all the time. What works, do it all the time. What worked 2 years ago, if you're not doing it today, you're not being successful. The goal of leaders is to motivate and create necessary change. That's not a job of a manager. Manager shouldn't come and say, you know what, I think we should do this. No. I want you to focus on doing the same thing that worked over and over and over. That is your job. But if you're both, then it's okay. You make that change. Leaders create vision. Managers create what? Vision. Goals. The goal of this quarter is to do this. The goal of this year is for us to do this. We want to reduce our non-active students to only 0.3%, to 3% of our total number of students. So if I have 100 students, I want to have only how many non-actives? 3. And the goal of this year is to reduce our number of C students from 10% to 7%. That's our goal. That's a goal that managers will set. All right. Do managers take risks? No. But the managers should go tell the leaders, and if you're both, you keep telling yourself the same thing. Right? I want to take a risk. Manager says, no, we can't take a risk. If we take the risk, this is what's going to happen. I've got many of them in my office today. Every time I'm trying to do something crazy, like perfect face recognition, attendance, they come and tell me, you know how expensive it is? You know what it takes to do it? You know how much development we got to do? How do we deal with security and privacy? How do we do all this? Right? And I say, do it! I'm sick and tired of these students coming with the kids and with the cards and do this. The technology is changing, we've got to change with it. Right? But you do have to listen to your managers too, because I've done crazy things that doesn't work either. All right? Because I might create things that I think it works, but then they got to go implement and they can't, and that doesn't work. That works against us. It's not good. So I've got some exercise for you. Have you gotten your exercise sheets? You have? Okay. Don't look at it yet. I know the time of this seminar was short. I usually do this in 2 hours, but I try to go quick. How many of you know what OKR means? Hands up. Wow. One group knows. That's amazing. OKR is something Google created for their business. It's called Objectives, Key Results. And I want you to learn this. If there's one thing I want you to learn today when you leave, is that. Okay? That's the one thing I want you to learn. Because it's going to help you tremendously to not only set goals for yourself, for your school, but it would also help your staff to become aligned with you. It's very important. I'll tell you all about it. There's a big difference between setting up objectives for your business and setting a long-term goals. So OKRs are usually set up quarterly. You say, hey, January, February, March, this is what I want to do. You can actually do it yearly as well if you want to, or do it every 6 months. But I prefer quarterly, because it's harder to align everyone if you do it too fast or if you do it too slow, right? And the way it works is, one of you actually mentioned there. You set up some objectives, and you say, if I divide my school into 2 departments, what would that be? What would be those 2 departments in my school? Tell me. Absolutely. Instruction and business, right? That would be the 2 departments. If you want to have 3 departments, I would say instruction, operation, means business, and I would say marketing, right? So the program directors, they go in that marketing areas. Lead generation goes under that area. Operation is about consistency, the front desk people, right? The attendance, the reporting, the payrolls, the bills, the expenses, and the instruction, which is the most important, is to have the highest number of students with the lowest what? NA students. Because you might have 600 students, and then if you look at it in PerfectMind, it'll tell you, oh, 150 of them are non-actives. They're paying, but they're non-actives. What does that tell you? That means in a year, you're going to drop 150 students, no doubt, right? So you want to measure that regularly. It's very important to set those objectives. And then, objective by itself doesn't work. Key results. What is it you're going to do to get to that goal? Very important. You say, I want to gain 20 in January, 20 in, no, February is a slow month. It's a tax year, maybe 15 students in February. And then March, I'll have, again, back into 20 students. What's the total of that students? 20 and 20 and 15 is what?
55.
I'm trying to see if you're awake, okay? 55 students. So I want to gain 55 new students. That's my objectives for marketing department or for my business department. Now you say, okay, how am I going to get there? Any idea? Give me 3 ideas you're going to get that to 45 students in 3 months. Any idea? Okay. So you say birthday parties, right? But key results cannot be goals. They have to be specific. They call it, they say SMART. Write it down. SMART. Specific, measurable, attainable. Right? You have to be able to set key results that are SMART, meaning you know exactly how you're going to get there. You said birthdays, right? Birthday parties? Yes, so you have to go to your system and see how many birthdays are coming up, and you say, oh, I've got 20 students that their birthday is about this time, and if I contact them now and send them an email and talk to them, maybe I can get 5 of them. So you say, my key result for birthday party is 5 birthday parties in this quarter. See how it's specific. Exact. Okay, this is how you bring result, right? And then you set that up for who? Who do you set that up for? Who does the birthday party in your school?
The instructor.
They do it?
Yes.
Who's going to make the call?
The program coordinator.
All right, so it's multiple people, right? Okay, so you set the objectives, then you set the key results, which is specific, and then you connect people to those key results. And I give you a tool to do this. I think it's free if you use it for a maybe a martial arts school or very little pay. Write it down. It's called Week Done. Week Done. I'm not promoting it. It's a product we use for our company. It's going to help you to set the objectives and the key results, and then you'll be able to enter everybody in your school that works and connect them to those key results. It will also help you at the end of the day to measure to see how they did. Do this exercise first time, most likely you fail because you're going to learn a lot of new things. Use it the second quarter, you get better. As you go forward, you get the team get used to this idea that we don't just show up to do things like always. No, we set goals and key results and we go out there and get them. Right? Because you can buy all the tools in the world. You can hire all the marketing agents in the world. At the end of the day, who has to execute? You. How do you execute? Like this. This is how you execute. OKRs. So bring that and set that up in your school. Let's do one for instruction. Let's set up an objective for instruction department. What would that be? Somebody said retention, right? Picked up your hand, you said retention. So what would be your objective for this quarter for retention? How many students do you have, sir? Yes. 180 students. How many students are you losing every quarter or every year? Don't tell me you don't know. You don't know how many students you're losing? Okay. 10%? 10%? Okay. So what would be your objectives for this quarter? To lose, so first you need to know how you're doing, how many students you're losing. Then you got to say, okay, I'm going to cut this in half. That would be my objectives. Right? If I'm losing 10%, I want to lose 5. And what would be the key results that you would set up for that? What do you want the instructors to do to lose less students?
Well, definitely about how they handle the classes. If they're boring and uninterested and not motivated, then students, whether they're kids or adults.
Well, how do you measure that? Remember, key results got to be specific. How do you know they're teaching a boring class? How would you measure that?
Well, student attendance.
Student attendance, you'll know? Okay. That's a good way to know. That's good. Do you guys call the students who don't show up? Okay, make sure that's a key result. You say, you call the students who doesn't show up. Whose job that is? Whose job that is? Instructors, not program directors. Right? Because I'm screwing up my class, I'm not doing a great class, and then someone else calls. No, I should be punished. Right? I'm losing the students. I should be calling them to find out why I'm losing them. So you set that key results. And if you go to Champions today, my school, you'll see that. They actually have the instructor's name on there, and they've got the key result. You'll know who's got to call how many times. And then weekly that gets measured. Right? Very important. Do you get this? Do you get it? Any question? I can't spend too much time on this. Yes?
Was that program that you were talking about, was that called Work, John? Or
Week. W-E-E-K. Correct. Week done. Yes. And there's lots of books on OKRs. Because this was, again, started by Google, but a lot of companies are on it now. So there's lots of books on Amazon you can buy. You can study a lot on what it is and how you set that up successfully, right? Try to find some for small businesses, right? So you don't go and read books on big corporations. It might not be helpful, right? And implement that. I think if you do this, and next year, and you come to me and say, Farid, it worked, you started something in the martial arts industry that no one has ever done. That is you, right? Take this very seriously. This will help you to create system and process and help to grow the team without everyone suffering and without blaming everyone else, right? You need to be specific. This is where we fail. We change a lot. We come up with new ideas a lot. And then we're not very clear when it comes to communicating with our staff what the goal is and how to do it. It's very important. Do you guys have this exercise? I'll give you 5 minutes. Think about your leader's interaction with you today and determine the actual behavior that defines their interaction. Okay, so think of this as if you're an instructor with your school owners. And if you're school owners, this will not really help you because you don't have anyone above you, right? But maybe you have a role model or someone that taught you, and you can think past to see how that went, right? So your 5 minutes begin now. You have that piece of paper here? Okay. You've done it already. Okay, very good. Just one side, yeah. Just one side. This exercise is going to help you when you are acting as a leader. But you need to do this exercise first, and then we go after the second one. Just 2 more minutes. week done. Is it Nima? Is it weekdone.com or IO? Okay. Now, if you turn it around, and the other side is how you're treating other people. So if you are acting as a leader, that could be instructor teaching students, right? And that could be a senior instructor helping the assistant instructors, or it could be a school owner treating their staff and the instructors. So make sure you put that side as well. This is just for you. No one's going to see it. Because you'll find out what are the areas that you need to work on. And if we cover some of these is, are you bringing out the best in people? Are you articulating the vision correctly? Do they know what the vision is, right? Are you thinking strategically? Remember we talked about the birthday party, right? How do you get there? The strategy to get more birthday party in your school. It's not just I just go buy a program from someone and now I'm done. I'm going to have a great birthday parties, right? You got to think as strategic how you're going to go about things. You got to think as strategic how I'm going to go about retention. I'm going to keep my students, right? You got to be strategic. It's important. Motivating the troops. The guys done introductory. How many people do intro lessons still? Okay. What's the success rate? What is it? 84. From intro 1 or total? Intro 1 to intro 2, is it 2? You do? You just do 1? Okay. 84% they'll join. How much you charge? That's amazing. So you should do intro for the rest of your life. That works. Right? I'm impressed. You know it's actually 84%. I'm impressed. It's amazing. Anybody else? What's the percentage you guys are getting from intro? Anybody knows?
Intro to trial?
Intro to registration. 1 out of 3. 33%? Okay. You suck at it. Why?
Intro to trial is 80, trial to enroll is 50.
Why? Go find out why. You think you're doing all right? The guy's saying 84%. He's doing all right. Right? Go find out why. Maybe the guy who's teaching it, pick up your hands, you said 84%. Talk to him afterwards. He's got the same colored shirt. You want to talk to him. A lot of people do something, it doesn't work, or it works a little bit, they give up. They say, let's try something new. What I'd like you to do is say why it doesn't work, analyze, and find the best way to do. If for sure you analyze it all the way and it doesn't work, then maybe change strategy. But if you're not executing correctly or the guy who's teaching it not doing it correctly, that matters, right? Have you guys heard the word 7 magic questions in a trial lessons? Anybody? No? You have heard it? You're old school. Who did you learn it from? Nick Coquinos. I love the man. He's not with us anymore. 7 magic questions about how you do the intro lessons, right? What are the kind of questions you ask? And how do you set people up so they could register at the end of the day? One of those questions, for example, could be, can you see yourself to become a black belt in 4 or 5 years? That is after you finish the trial. Or in the middle. Can you see that in yourself? One of the other questions is that, for example, you'll ask, is there anybody else who could make a decision for you whether to join my school or not? I actually asked that question from a lawyer guy, an adult. I said, is there anybody else who could make a decision for you to join our school or not? He said, yes, my wife. I said, okay. Then why don't you bring your wife to the class next time you could show up in the second intro? He said, why? I said, because I won't let you in the school otherwise. She's got to be here. So he brings the wife to the class, then later she joins too. Right? So you want to break it down to understand what makes you successful at what you do. And then make those things consistently. It's important. Do you have kids show up to trial lessons without parents? Okay. All right. All right. Do you have any questions so far on OKRs? Anybody? Yes. Nima? Okay. Good questions. If you type SMART goals on Google, it brings it up. The most important words I like is those two words. You know what that is? What's my favorite ones? Specific, measurable. Right? Because if I say, I got to teach great classes, everybody shows up. Is that a specific? No. I want my kids have fun. Is that a specific? You know what makes it specific? I want the last 5 minutes of every class, every kid's class, to be a game. I'm very specific. Right? And it's measurable because I can go to class and see the last 5 minutes, did they play a game? You have to be very specific and measurable. It's very important. All right. Customer obsession. I like this. It's very important. We don't do a good job when you have a lot of students on that. And that was one of the reasons you can't scale to have more students. And that is being able to take care of your students and knowing where they are and what they think and how they feel. And knowing the parents, right? You have to have obsession with customers' progress. It's very important. You have to know if the guy is not moving in rank, why that is. Find out, is it a challenge at home? Is it that he needs some private lessons that maybe you need to work with him, right? You have to understand your students really well. Your instructors have to pick that habit too. You have to have obsession with your students and customers, understanding what gets them to succeed. And whatever that goal is, right? It might be a belt, it might be getting in shape. You got to have that obsession and the whole team's got to be the same way. It's very important. Customer satisfaction is key. Doesn't matter in what type of business. It's even more important for businesses that are in service business like you guys, right? Very important. Ownership. Leaders are owners. When you do something, remember I asked you birthday party, who does it? It cannot be not knowing who is the owners. You have to know very clearly, this project I own. This project you own. Who owns the student retention in your school? Everybody is not ownership. Ownership, it should belong to one person. Right? Who do you go talk to? Who do you go to complain when things are not going well? Right? Those are the owners. Owners got to be one. You say, hey, you own a student retention. Meaning, you always know how many non-active C students, B students, A students we have. You know where the students are, why they're quitting, why they're not showing up. You got to know all that. Who owns marketing in your school? Program directors? Okay. Is that ownership clear? Does he know that he owns lead generation, introductories, the percentage of the success, and the registrations? The ownership has to be very clear. Do you know why? Because when it's not clear, a lot of blaming happens, right? And the second most important, you do not bring results because you don't know who should do what. Not one person cannot do everything, right? So that ownership is so important to be clear. And sometimes as an owner, you don't have certain expertise. For example, you say, you know what? I suck at finance or accounting. I got to have somebody does that for me. I'm not good at marketing, right? Find the owners who are passionate about that work, who understand it, who are going to educate themselves on that specific thing and learn to own that area 100%. That ownership is the key. Ownership doesn't mean people are not going to fail in those areas, right? They still might need coaching, helping, but it's important to define those ownership. It's very important. And the areas that I would say it's important is most likely all those three departments. Marketing, instructions department, right? Or the operation department, which is the front desk and the payroll and all that areas. So that ownership is the key. I think in a martial arts school area, I see those ownership are defined in certain ways. For example, I know that if there's a husband and wife running a school, usually somebody's taking on the front desk and the operation stuff, and somebody's taking the floors. So those ownerships a little clear, right? But when there's a staff, that's not so much clear. I think you got to make that clear. Invent and simplify. Everything you do, guys, don't think of it as an idea. Make sure it's simple for people to understand and follow. One thing that really helps with that is your OKRs, the key results, right? Don't make things complicated. If you make things complicated, people cannot follow you, right? It's very important. Innovation in your martial arts schools. Can you guys innovate? Have you innovated anything in the last 12 months in your school? Have you done anything new? What has it been? Can you bring up some of them? Coaching. Okay. Coaching who? Coaching what? What was the innovation?
Getting coaching.
Getting coaching. Outside coaching. Yes, that's unbelievable. It's amazing. Getting help from outside.
Yeah.
That's very good. Anybody else? Yes.
Created mentors in our demo team.
Okay. That's amazing. Junior black belt. Okay. Not 8 years old. I'm just kidding. Okay.
3/4 of our revenue is after school, and we're having some pushback from school districts on marketing directly to students through the school because we are a for-profit business. So we've set up a 501c3 to work within
Wow.
those rules to run our after-school.
It's unbelievable. That's innovation, right? You're trying to get into schools and bring the students over, right? Anybody thought of satellite schools? Because a lot of multi-location fails. Do you know why? What's the biggest reason why multi-location fail? Staff, right? Staffing. So what would help with that? Smaller school close to each other. And satellite school. Smaller, cheaper, no change room maybe, just small, come and go. Then have the headquarters, right? Anybody have done any innovation on the equipment side? I saw some really cool stuff here for kids, right? It refreshes your school, right? It tells your students that, hey, you still care about them. You still think about them, right? You're coming up with new ideas. Any innovation on drills in the classrooms? What are you doing?
Implementation, using the stick and hand and stuff, that's really helped teach, mainly teach Goju. The application of the stick is helping speed on the.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So sometimes we teach kickboxing in our school, and we put people together to do point sparring. It's completely different, right? I was a member of the Iranian national team, and that was my background for a while. So when I bring these type of things to the students, especially black belt, they love it. Because they've been doing kickboxing for a while, they start doing something different, right? It's good. It refreshes the ideas of training. It motivates the instructors, the students. It's very good. Weapons. Anybody teach nunchucks? Good, right? So you want those innovations. Whether it's on the mat, Whether it's on the marketing side, what you're doing, right? Going to the schools. It's amazing. Whether it's opening up more satellite schools. Those innovations are key. And that's a job of a leader. You got to be thinking about these things all the time. It's very important. Learn and be curious. I think that's, are you guys like that? Obviously you are. You are so much that you're saying, I'll bring from outside to coach me, to help me. Because you're curious to learn. That's amazing. As a martial arts school owners or instructors, you are already the leaders in your community. Make sure you keep learning and educating yourself. It does two things. First of all, it's fun, right? It's fun to learn. It gets you excited. Number two, it helps your organization. Whether you're teaching in a school or you're an owner, it doesn't matter. Continuously, you got to be able to learn. Great leaders are the ones who are constantly learning. They're not sitting back to say, I've learned this already. I know how to do this. I don't have to learn anymore. Right? You got to be relevant. And to stay relevant, you got to keep learning. It's very key. It's very important. Okay. Some of the things I've done personally in my career. I started a martial arts school. I was a professional fighter, got into running a martial arts school. Then I started thinking, how do I scale? I started thinking about building a software for my school, and then I started selling the software. And this is what I do full time. Today with PerfectMind, we have over 200 parks, cities, municipalities that use PerfectMind for running their parks and recreation centers, whether it's for martial arts or other sports and activities. And these are some of the things that I've learned during my past 20, 30 years as an entrepreneur, okay? Not as an instructor or martial artist, but as an entrepreneur. The first one is share the good and the bad news. You should do that at home too, right? Don't always share the good news. We're growing, we're helping, we're making lots of money. Be able to share with your staff and instructors when you're in trouble. It's a good thing. But don't share just the bad news. That's not a good thing, right? You got to find that balance. This is very important. And if you don't balance that, people would not know how to follow you. They would not know where you need help, right? As a leader, you want to get your staff help in all areas that you're not doing well or you're failing. Being able to share the good and bad news is important. Guys, you know what? This month, financially, we're not doing well. We haven't registered enough students. We got to put things together to change this around for next month. Right? Be able to share those good and bad news are key. And a lot of people think automatically everyone knows, but that's part of alignment. Not all your staff know what's going on, right? I'm even in agreement to even maybe share your financial information with your students. It's not a bad thing. With your top instructors, right? Or top staff. It's important. Anybody does the second one? Student 360? Do you know what your students think about you? Do you? No? You don't want to know what your students think about you? No? You do? But yet you're doing nothing about it? How's that possible? Do you care about your students or no? Okay, then you should care about what they think about you. Are you afraid they would tell you something you don't like? Do you hear? No? Okay.
What is Student 360?
So Student 360 is where you ask your students what they think about you. Do a survey. Right? There's a lot of great softwares out there that they do a free survey. Right? Use one of them, send them every quarter, and ask them, what do you think about our classes? What do you think about our services? Right? What do you think about the instructors? What do you think about the cleanness of the school? Right? Ask your students what they think about you. Right? It's very important. We've done this also internally in our company We call it Staff 360, where we ask staff what they think about us. And we got this software that actually does pulse, and it'll send the staff these emails and ask them, what do you think? How do you feel this week? How do you feel next week? What do you think about us? The more you know, the more you become. The more you hide, the less you become. Be open. Encourage people, encourage your students to give you honest feedback. I know the relationship in a martial arts school is a little different. We're very close, tight, right? So maybe something helps is anonymous. Use the product that allows for that, for survey. Anonymous feedback, where the student doesn't have to say who he is. He can say whatever he wants, right? And use a third-party product. Do not use, that's the reason I haven't built a survey software within PerfectMind. I don't believe in it. Because you want a software that is third-party, that the students trust, that they're not going to give you their information. Right? But if your own software sends a survey, they say, oh, they'll know. They cannot give you anonymous feedback. And that anonymous feedback, it's the key for you to know the areas that you need to work on to become better. That's the key. Right? It's so important. This learning from students is so important. I'll tell you this, the value is so much bigger than you spending money, going to an event, listening to people like me, so you can learn a few things. But what you can learn from your students today, it's huge. What they think about you. What they think about their struggles. How you can help them to become better. Why would they quit? Every student that quits, send them a survey. Why did you quit? Where did I lose your trust? What could I have done to motivate you better? Because you learn. And then you share those information with your staff and instructors. It's huge. Nothing's bigger than that. Being able for your customers to tell you what they feel about you. It's the key. And you know what? Sometimes they talk greatly about you too. And that's motivating. That's encouraging, right? Yes? Parents, absolutely. And then you encourage them in the questions. Please ask this question from your child also. So you put some for parents and one for the child, where parents ask the child and fill it up. It's actually a fun exercise. What is that software is very good? SurveyMonkey? That's a good one. It's a third party. It's not in your software. And I do believe they have anonymous, right? Yes?
How long are your surveys?
Say again?
How long are your surveys? How many questions do you send them?
How often or how long?
3 questions, 5 questions, 10, 100.
If you do it once a quarter, you could be okay with 10. But because you own a martial arts school, you can get away with anything. Because you go to in front of a class, you've got this 5 minutes announcement every week in your class. Do you guys use that? That everybody follows? Okay, and one of them says, at the end of the class, tell everyone, guys, I have sent you the survey. I want all of you to respond to it. Could you do that? They'll say, yes, sir. Can you do that with your customers if you're a software company? No. You got advantage, right? That's a big advantage. Your students, your customers, they listen to you. They love you. They want to help you. That's a big advantage. So ask them. Keep asking them. It's very important. Your goal is for everyone to win, right? It's a very hard one, especially if your school owner is struggling or financially. But remember, everyone can win. How long do we have? Out of time. Okay. All right. All right. Be transparent. It's very important. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. I don't have more time, but appreciate your time.